A few days ago, I actually I wrote a post on LinkedIn on a concept that I think a lot of people generally aren't taught about, I would say. And so it basically, how I used it was there's a whole marketing idea. It's an old marketing idea around this idea that no one buys, it's about drill bits. It says no one buys a drill bit, what they buy is a hole in the wall. And in his book, This is Marketing, Seth Godin actually takes this idea a lot further and says no one wants a hole in their wall. What they want are actually pictures lifted up. And so I used that idea. Like I kept on thinking about that idea within the concept of the recruitment process. And lends itself to the idea lends itself in various ways, but one of the ways that I thought about was I think, especially as candidates, from the standpoint of the candidate, we generally, when we go for interviews, we present ourselves as essentially our job spec. So we present ourselves as all of the characteristics of a drill bit. You know, this diameter drill bit, I can drill this deep, and all of those other things. Great, but so can every other drill bit. You know, what you actually want to figure out, and it's one of the things that, because of my fascination with marketing, I learned quite early on this thing, and it's one of the things that I actually employ whenever I go to interviews and whatever else. I try to figure out why exactly does this position exist? Like, why do they have this vacancy? Like, what problem is solved by the existence of this vacancy? You want to actually be able to figure that out. You want to be able to, and if you don't know, it's actually useful to actually ask them, like, why does this role actually exist? What is it that they're trying to actually achieve with filling this role? So in my case, I'm an analyst, well, data scientist, but that's neither here nor there. I'll generally ask them questions like, okay, what exactly are you trying to do with this role? Why does this company feel like it needs an analyst or whatever else, depending on whether this is a new role or an old role. So if it's a new role, I'll ask all sorts of questions. I'll ask a lot of questions. And the objective of me asking these questions is I want to know why this role exists and what does it mean to the company to have someone who can actually fulfill this role. And because you are coming in as essentially the subject matter expert, you are the person that has the information. You are the one that has the knowledge and the skills. Your CV tells them that. But this conversation is about now, can you paint a picture for them on what you being in that role actually then looks like? Can you actually develop that image for them? Can you help them come to understand what is it in them? It's two things. It's one, you want to understand what it is that they are trying to do and help them paint a better picture of that using the knowledge and skills that you've already gained from, let's say, a previous role or from courses that you took up or from a degree program that you were in. You want to be able to show them that it's not just certifications you have the actual knowledge, and you would be able to apply this knowledge within their context. That's the first thing. One of the things that actually only learned this recently is they have their own concept of what this role will do. What you actually want to do is, especially if you feel like they haven't thought it through, is actually you want to blow that entire thing up. You want to actually bring in specific knowledge and skills that perhaps they were not considering related to the specific role. So one of the things that I've become really engrossed in is the concept of data strategies. So really aligning your data activities to business objectives. So not just blindly building machine learning models, blah, 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 but like really saying, okay, this is where we are trying to get to as a business. And then the question then becomes, how do we then arrive there? Um, or rather, how does data allow us to actually arrive there perhaps a lot quicker or more efficiently, blah, blah. So that's one of the things I bring into a lot of the conversations I will then have, let's say with a recruiter or whatever else. I'll actually ask them, I'm like, okay, do you guys have a data strategy in place? What does that look like? Have you considered this? Have you thought about this? Are you guys perhaps looking into this? Are you working around this? Here's some of the things that I've started to see from colleagues around things that are happening within your industry by competitors? Are you also moving in a similar direction? Why not? If you are, how have you seen that actually working out? As you start asking questions like that, one, you're starting to gauge the the depth of understanding related to that role by the prospective employer. But secondly, it allows you to actually position yourself as the obvious candidate for this role. So it allows them to to feel more confident that one, you understand the responsibilities aligned with the role. Two, you have the necessary knowledge and skills that would allow you to perform within the context of that role. And ultimately, that's what you need. That's the type of person you actually want to be. That's how you want to be seen, you know. And I think I don't get why people aren't taught this. Like, there's no degree program. Like, it's not included in any degree program. It's not anyway that I've seen. Like, I mean, unless you actually go out looking for books or YouTube videos and whatever, people actually aren't taught about how to interview and how to interview successfully. Like, actually, it's not so much about your CV. By the time you get called in for an interview, your CV has basically done all that it could for you. You know, from that point on, pretty much everyone else that you are competing with has the same knowledge of skills, has the same qualifications, give or take. And now it's a matter of, can you actually present yourself? Can you actually speak your way into a job, pretty much? And that comes with your depth of understanding on the subject matter, but also on the business problems that the company faces and how you might be able to resolve those problems using some of this. And there was actually a YouTube video that I watched a while back. I can't remember who, and he talks about how the more senior the position, the more research you actually need to do. So the video itself was more related to like C-suite and whatever else, but it was a short video, so I was interested in seeing how you prepare for something like that. And he's like, if your research is not at the very least this big, like if you don't have like a notebook or whatever else, at least this big of research, you're basically cooked. Like you're not gonna get the job um, for that C-suite role. And I think you can basically work your way down from like executive level, and then you can start perhaps bringing down. But you really want to walk into an interview having such a deep understanding of the organization, having such a deep understanding of the problems that perhaps the department faces or whatever else, and that comes with perhaps even reaching out to people in the organization, speaking to people who work in that department, find out some of these things. Or even if it's a person that has left the organization, why did they leave? Like, what's the culture like? What are some of the problems that the organization is facing? What are their competitors doing that they're currently not doing? You want to have like such a depth of knowledge when you walk into that interview that you actually have, even if it's not an accurate picture, but it's accurate enough for you to show that you have the necessary knowledge and skills that could add meaningful value to that specific role. So in my case, it would be a data role. So it would be a necessity for me to show that I've got an understanding of some of the work they are doing, like their customer segmentation, blah, blah, blah. You do. So I would need to walk into that. And I literally do this. I walk into the interview itself with having done a lot of research. Like, I really invest a lot of time. I reach out to people on LinkedIn. I try to find out as much as I can about the organization. If I'm fortunate enough to know who's going to be interviewing me, I actually connect with them on LinkedIn. I look at some of their credentials. I look at what it is that they've done, how long they've been with the organization. These are some of the things that are going to lend themselves into the conversation that I'll be having with them. You've been with the company for, let's say, 3 or 4, 5 years. Generally, people move from an organization after like 2 or 3 years. Why have you stayed this long? That gives you some insight into the company culture and whether this is the type of place that you yourself want to grow your career in. So that's one of the things that I really do. And I think we aren't taught enough about that. We aren't taught enough about how do you actually prepare, what's the level of research that you actually do. And for me, what seems to have been working quite well is I go in there trying to paint the picture of, I understand the problems that you have, and this is how I would fix those problems. So I'm actually eager to hear how you guys actually prepare for your interviews. Like, what research do you do? What preparation do you actually do? and what type of questions do you prepare for the prospective employer, and what has been your success rate in using those specific questions and the specific method that you're currently using?